Speech off.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm here to do my July reading update. I think I read about 11 books. Some of them are shorter than others, so that's how I got through those. And some of them I did not like as much as others, so we're going to go from low lows to high highs and everything in between. So let's just get started. So first one that I finished was The Playgroup by Leah Mercer. I gave this one 3 stars. Not a great one. Well, it was great in terms of compellingness because I wanted to finish it, but it had some twists, like it was a little too much. So this is about a mom named Lenora who was basically battling postpartum depression, or no, more like postpartum psychosis. And she feels very scrutinized, so she, when she's back on her feet, she wants to show her husband, James, that she can take care of their kid on her own. So her big plan is to kind of leave him for a while and go kind of bond with her kid on her own and do her thing. And so she goes to this, like, sort of small town, and she finds this, basically, daycare. Well, this is a British book, so they call it a nursery. It's called The Nest. It's run out of... It's a co-op, so everybody's kind of taking care of each other's kids, that kind of thing. And there are 2 women in charge of the program itself. We have Alice and we have Georgie. Alice is in charge of the whole operation, and Georgie is kind of her aide, and they at first were going to let Lenora and the baby in, but Lenora was looking for a part-time job, so they agreed to hire her on as a teacher. Anyway, not the point. The point is, one day Lenora leaves the baby, I already forgot the baby's name, to go set up, like, register them at the doctor's, and when she comes back, she gets back to the daycare just in time to see the kid get hit by a car. And so it's like, whose fault is it? Kind of thing. And she's scared to tell James because, he already doesn't trust her because of her postpartum. He thinks she can't take care of the kid. So, yeah. And then from there, it's a whole huge gaslighting among all these women. Because nobody wants us to get out that this kid is like at death's door because on their watch because she got hit by a car. Each of them has their reasons for wanting to keep this secret and wanting to keep it hush-hush. And it all turns into this huge mix-up where everybody's keeping secrets. At first, it's because there's, like, the building's polluted and Alice didn't want to say because it was such a perfect building. Asbestos, she called it, or something. And then we have Georgie, who was high on pills at the time. Like, everybody has reasons for wanting to. And so basically what they do is Georgie finds out that Lenora suffered from the psychosis. Lenora thinks they're friends, so she confides it. And when it all hits the fan, they decide to gaslight Lenora into thinking she's crazy. And that's when I already hate this book. Like, you're using mental illness to mess with someone's head purposely. And at least Georgie, and I forget the other one's name. There was a third lady. One that was pregnant. I forgot. That was another one. But at least the other 2 have some guilt over what they're doing. But Alice is a downright monster in this book. Like, she's terrible. Like, to the point where she has them, like, doing illegal things to scare her out of the neighborhood. Alice, Beth, and Georgie. Beth is the one who's pregnant. And, yeah, Beth also has reasons to hide it because she has, like, a shady past. And she doesn't want it to get out. So, like, everybody has their reasons, and so they kind of all work together. And then, like, since Alice is the most malicious of them all, she kind of, because the other two are just trying to protect their families, essentially. Georgie also has a daughter with MS, multiple sclerosis. And yeah, it's just crazy. And yeah, like I said, Beth is pregnant and she didn't want anyone to know about her shady past. So, like, once Alice figures out that they also have secrets and she starts blackmailing them, it becomes a whole thing. And so they basically tell Lenora, hey, you, your car is here and all that. So you don't remember that you got that you got the baby out of the car and she ran into the road. Like, and they did it so well that Lenora eventually thought she was crazy. Like, they were planting stuff. It was sick. Like, I hated everybody except that poor mom. And by the end of it, I even hated the dad. I won't say why, but woof. I mean, this is sick. So I gave it 3 stars because of my bookish rage, but it was still a compelling read. Next we have In the Blink of an Eye by Kate Hewitt. I gave this one 5 stars. So this one centers around 3 moms. We have Joanna, who moves with her family to this town. She moves with her husband, who's battling depression, and her little boy, Kieran, who has behavioral issues, which, for reasons we'll find out throughout the book. He's invited to Bella's birthday party because Eleanor, the queen bee of this town, there's always a queen bee mom. So Eleanor wants to invite the whole class because this is like the last year that Bella will want to invite the whole class, maybe. But nobody wants to invite Kieran because he's kind of mean and he pushes the kids around and like he's kind of a nightmare of a kid, but anyway. But they do, and the third mom in this little story is what's her name? Natalie. She is separated from her husband, and she has a daughter named Freya, who is best friends with Bella. Bella and Freya are kind of opposites. Bella is really outgoing. I mean, she's the queen bee's daughter, right? So she's like outgoing and hyper, and everybody loves her, and she's the most popular kid in class, and she can do no wrong. And Freya's her loyal follower who, yeah. And that's kind of how the friendship between Natalie and Eleanor is. Eleanor's a bossy one, and Natalie kind of goes with it. So Natalie gets bullied into taking care of all 25 kids at the party, and she doesn't see what happens when Bella gets injured. She falls into the pond and hits her head, and she's in a coma. And really all anybody sees is Kieran standing over her. And he says he didn't push her, but everybody thinks he did push her because that's what he does. He pushes kids, and he's kind of not nice. But what's interesting about this book is as you piece together what happened, I'm not going to say why, but it's everybody's fault. Different things led to what happened, and the ending was not tied in a bow, which I actually thought worked really well in this book, because it was like everybody's fault. It was just human error, and everybody admits to their human error by the end of it. There was really no one to blame. And even who ends up pushing her was just one of those kid things. Like, it wasn't... You had to read it to really understand what I'm saying, but it was just little things like, well, one of the things was that Natalie was in charge of too many kids, so she didn't see what happened. You can't watch 25 kids because Eleanor was inside thinking her husband had an affair and was busy drinking wine and getting drunk at her daughter's party instead of watching the kids. So Natalie had all of the kids. And then there was some teasing, like just different things. And you piece together this story and you're like, wow, we all messed up. And so it was a book where you realize that everybody's really human. And just one little comment can spiral a whole drama. So I really liked it, even though it wasn't like as compelling as I thought it would be. Like, there was no huge twists in this book, but it was human. Anyway, then I read the last 2 books in the Redemption series by Karen Kingsbury. I watched the show over the weekend, by the way. I love the show. It's a little different from the books, but I'm enjoying rereading this whole series. So I read Rejoice, and then Reunion. I gave both of them 4 stars. I can't really talk about Reunion because it's a huge spoiler. Or lots of huge spoilers. Book 4 is also kind of spoilery, but not as much. Basically, one of the kids in the family... Oops, my battery's gonna die soon.
Speech on. 10% battery. Close. Button. Speech off.
So one of the kids in the family, Haley, falls into the pool. Brooke and Peter, her parents, are kind of on the outs. They're sort of fighting. And so Brooke has to go, they're both doctors, and Brooke has to go into the hospital on call at the last minute. And Peter didn't even want to go to this party that they were at. And so he's sulking and watching the baseball game, or I forgot what sport, who cares? And Haley falls into the pool and drowns. She lives, but like it's her recovery, essentially, and how they kind of get through that. There's brain damage. The only thing I have against this book, and this is just me being personally offended, because it's not really fair to be this personally offended, but I'm blind, as you all know, and it was really annoying how they kept like praying that their kid wouldn't be blind, like it's the worst thing in the world. And again, I'm not saying that you should want your kid to be blind, but it's like legit, the grandpa was kind of like, if you have to make her blind and bedridden, just send her home, as in to heaven. Like, that was one of the prayers. And I was like, oh, like, I understand what he means. I know that he means everything as a whole. Like, you know, he thought that she would be like essentially confined to her bed, not being able to move. That's how much brain damage he thought she would have. But the fact that he kept saying the word blind just rubbed me the wrong way, even though I know that's not what he meant. But it's like, okay, can we stop saying that over and over and over, because you're making me mad. I don't know. It sounds silly, but it annoyed me. And then Reunion, there's a family reunion in it for reasons I will not say. But both 5 stars. Reunion made me cry. That's all I'll say about that one. Then I read one Boxcar Children mystery, The Haunted Cabin Mystery. This is Boxcar Children number 20. I gave this one 2 stars. You know what's interesting? I love books about naughty children, but for some reason, kids who do good deeds without permission annoy me. So, like, in this book, for example, the Alden kids, this is the first book where they're consistently the same age. So from 20 and on, you can read these out of order. I'm going to read them in order just because I've never read them all, but you can potentially read these out of order because they never age. These are post Gertrude Chandler Warner's death. So in this one, there's going to go spend a couple of weeks at Grandpa Alden's friend's cabin in, I think it's Kentucky. I forgot where it is. And they're going to take a paddle wheel to boat to his place. It's a whole thing. So, right before they're supposed to go on the boat, they get a telegram saying that he broke his ankle or twisted his ankle and he can't take care of them. You know, he can't have them over. And what do the Aldens do? They're like, hey, he doesn't realize it will be much more of a help than a hindrance, so let's all just go. And I'm kind of like annoyed at them because it's just so presumptuous. It's like, yeah, you may think you're helpful, but who wants 4 children visiting them when they're hobbling around on crutches with a miserable ankle? Like, I don't know. I just don't really... I guess when I'm miserable, I want to be left alone, and I understand that. So for them just to assume that they don't know what... He doesn't know what he's missing if he doesn't have us over to help him out. It's just annoying to me. Anyway, the whole mystery is there's, like, strange noises and weird things happening in the cabin, which turns out to be a perfectly ordinary explanation. Anyway, yeah, 2 stars. Then I read a short story, A Hidden Secret. It's one of the Kate Burkholder books by Linda Castillo. It's books between 6 and 7, so it's book 6.5, An Abandoned Baby. The mystery of the abandoned baby, essentially. It was a good read, but I can't really say anything because it's so short. So 5 stars. Then I read Between You and Me by Susan Wiggs. I heard about this one from Chloe from Always Booked. It was on one of her book hauls. I give this one 4 stars. So, this is about Caleb Stoltz. He is kind of caught between 2 worlds. He essentially started out, he was Amish. His family was Amish, and then he left the Amish community, and his brother stayed. His brother went and had a family, wife, children, and Caleb went into the world, the English world. And then, all of a sudden, Caleb's brother and his wife pass away, leaving the 2 kids. And his deathbed wish was that they be raised Amish. So Caleb kind of has to go back and help with the kids. And the whole drama starts because the little boy essentially gets a serious injury, and Caleb makes the decision to airlift him, even though that's against their religion to ride in any of those vehicles, including cars. I think they're like super older Amish. Anyway, so that starts the beginning of the whole drama. Caleb's dad has a fit, and he meets... So yeah, they get to the hospital, and they meet Dr. Reese Powell, and sparks fly. And she's like poised to join the like medical dynasty of her wealthy, successful parents. Like, her family's really well off, and they want her to be like this super high powered doctor. And so she kind of learns to appreciate the simple life through Caleb, and Caleb learns to really embrace her modern world, and it's kind of them, and eventually the kids sort of stuck between worlds. Like, while Caleb is there, because essentially the little boy, his arm gets amputated because he hurt it on some kind of machinery. So he has to, like, be in the hospital's, like, rehab center for physical therapy and learning how to use the prosthesis and stuff like that. So he starts kind of integrating into the English world and playing video games with the other kids in the playroom and reading Harry Potter and doing all the stuff that would never be allowed in the Amish world. And then, yeah, they have to go back, and it's kind of a tug of war between these 2 worlds. And you really do see kind of the negative parts of the Amish community, because at one point, the girl, his niece, something happens that has her shunned. She tried to solve a problem so she wouldn't get shunned, and Reese doesn't approve of the solution. I can't really say what it is, because it'll spoil the book, but Reese tries to solve it in a modern way, and gets her to see it through a modern lens, but she unknowingly, like, screws her over in the Amish community and gets her shunned. She wouldn't have been shunned if she had done it the way that she wanted to do it. Even though I kind of agree with Reese. But yeah, it's just this whole tug of war between these 2 worlds. And you learn a lot about kind of the abuse that I'm not saying being Amish is abusive, but what I will say is that it really depends on who is the head of the household. Because, like, but I really think that could depend on any Christian religion anyway, because, like, the man is the head of the household. So if the man is a tyrant, you have to obey the man. And that's very much how legalistic it is in the Amish community. So in this case, this Amish father was really abusive. And Caleb's mother left the family and went and had another one. So, like, there's just so much trauma in this. So Caleb was already kind of disenchanted with the Amish anyway. He only stayed for the kids. And yeah, it's just him and the kids kind of coming to terms with maybe this isn't the world for us. And him and Reese becoming closer. And yeah, it's a romance, but it's kind of a complicated family story too. I don't know why they talk about a court case in this. There is barely a court case. It's barely a mention. And the court case isn't what you think it is. It's like a nothing thing. Well, it's not a nothing thing, but it's not what I thought it would be. So, yeah, I don't expect this huge custody or court battle or anything like that, because it's not. Anyway, I gave it 4 stars. It was a good read. So, yeah. Then I read 2 books by Viola Shipman. The Heirloom series. I heard about these from Tammy from Believe in Your Shelf. And yeah, so the first one I read was The Charm Bracelet. So, 3 women, they rediscover the importance of family. So I'll just read the description. On her birthday each year, Lolly's mother gave her a charm, along with the advice that there is nothing more important than keeping family memories alive. And so Lolly's charm bracelet would be a constant reminder of that love. Now 70 and starting to forget things, Lolly knows time is running out to reconnect with the daughter and granddaughter whose lives have become too busy for Lolly or her family stories. But when Arden, Lolly's daughter, receives an unexpected phone call about her mother, she and granddaughter Lauren rush home. Over the course of their visit, Lolly reveals the story behind each charm on her bracelet, and one by one, the family stories help Lolly, Arden, and Lauren reconnect in a way that brings each woman closer to finding joy, love, and faith. So yeah, that's essentially what it is. All these 3 generations come together. There is kind of a romance between Arden and a guy there. Actually, I think it's Lolly's nurse. So there's sort of a romance kind of starting there. But the rest of it's really a side plot. But Arden is kind of stiff, and like she likes order because Lolly's kind of chaotic and crazy and hyper and happy, and just Arden didn't connect with that very well, so she left town the first chance she could and had her daughter, Lauren, and tried to have a stable life. And Lauren is very close to her grandma. She spends summers with her and stuff like that, and you know, she kind of relates more to her. So, yeah, I loved this book. A lot of it made me cry, like the different memories of the charms and stuff. But I have to say, as much as I love Lolly, I kind of related more to Arden. I like order. I don't think Lolly is fun to read about, but Lolly would make me crazy. Like, she's so loud and happy and hyper and dancing and crazy with her wigs and her, like, I would probably have done the same thing as Arden. Run away from home first chance I got. Like, I'm not as rigid as Arden at all. Like, I'm not like super, I need everything to be predictable either. But I think if I'd had our Lolly for a mom, I would have been Arden. So I kind of get how it happened. Like, I empathized a lot with her more than I did Lolly. Just because, I don't know, like, I need things to be calm, and Lolly ain't calm. Lolly's nuts. But I think my favorite one was Lauren, just because she was kind of in the middle. She saw both sides, and yeah, like, it was a great reconnecting, but I still felt for Arden a lot. Even though she was kind of the killjoy out of the three. I probably would be too, because I'd need some sanity. I don't know. Anyway, then I read the next one in the series. Like I said, this is... Well, I didn't say. This is a series that you don't have to read together. It's just called the Heirloom series because each one is about a family and an heirloom. But these can be total standalones. This one has nothing to do with the previous one. Like, I'm not really interested in book 3, which is the recipe box. So I'm stopping here. But I love this one. The Hope Chest. So this is... I also give this 5 stars. Okay. Ever since she was diagnosed with ALS, fiercely independent Maddie doesn't feel like herself. She can't navigate her beloved home, she can't go for a boat ride, and she can barely even feed herself. Her devoted husband, Don, love him, doesn't want to imagine life without his wife of nearly 50 years, but Maddie isn't likely to make it past their anniversary. But when Rose, Maddie's new caregiver, and young daughter, Jerry, enter the couple's lives, happiness and the possibility for new memories return. Together they form a family, and Maddie is finally able to pass on her memories from the Hope Chest she received from her mother. With each item including a favorite doll, family dishes, an embroidered apron, and an antique Christmas ornament, the Hope Chest connects Maddie, Dawn, and Rose to each other and helps them find hope again in the face of overwhelming loss. Overwhelming life's challenges. So yeah, ultimately that's pretty much what it is. It's them kind of going through the Hope Chest, learning about Maddie's life and the memories and stuff like that. And we also learn about Rose's life too, through some of the memories in the Hope Chest. And it's a really good story of found family. Like, by the end of it, even though Maddie ultimately dies. That's how it ends, essentially. I mean, you know it's going to end that way. She's, like, at death's door. But it's still, like, such a feel-good epilogue because Rose and Dawn and Jerry are, like, this family. Like, she calls him Grandpa, and it's so sweet. And it makes me happy, even though it's, like, it made me cry in parts, too. Like, I love this author. So thanks, Tammy. And then the last 2 books, we're ending on a low. I started the Rose Harbor series by Debbie Maycomer. It's a spinoff of the Cedar Cove series, and so far, I'm not a fan. I give both of these 2 stars. The first one is The Inn at Rose Harbor. I like the idea. Jo Marie, her husband passes away. He died in war. And so she buys an inn, and she calls it Rose Harbor Inn, and she's just getting started. And so we have her first 2 guests. We have Joshua Weaver. His stepdad is dying, and he doesn't have a great relationship with him. And he meets up with this friend from back in the day. I already forgot her name. She's annoying. And, like, okay, look. I am all for forgiving and forgetting, but this man was terrible to Joshua. And, like, the whole book is about him being forced to, like, be nice to him and forgive him. And, okay, I'm all for forgiving him, like, letting go. But, I would have let him die alone. He was terrible. He kicked him out of his house and, like, literally took a knife to his Letterman jacket after he left. Like, he was awful. Like, I would have no guilt in letting this man die alone. I'm sorry. I am no saint. This man was terrible. Like, the idea that, like, we have to, like, be super nice to him. And, like, it's so interesting because he begrudgingly gave Joshua his mother's Bible. Like, told him where it was. Like, he, you know, because this whole book, this guy's accusing him of stealing from him before he dies or whatever. And when he finally gets the Bible, like, the girl, Michelle, that's her name, I think. Michelle, the next door neighbor, is like, aren't you satisfied with anything? When Joshua's not, like, on his knees thanking him. It was just infuriating. Like, the journey of, being slowly kind of forgiving him and even being sad about his death. It was just infuriating because, and they even had him, the author even had him reflecting on the part he played in the abuse. Like, that he was jealous that he was spending time with his mom. It's like, you were a kid! He's the adult! Why do we have to, like... This book just made me so mad. Sorry for yelling. You, as a child, don't get to take the blame for an adult being a terrible person. Anyway, then we have an enemies to lovers trope. Love story between the handyman and Jo Marie, which continues into the next book. I don't like this. I do not like enemies to lovers. But I will endure for the sake of my other Cedar Cove friends. Because I want to see what they're up to. So I will suffer through these people. The story I did like was the other guest. What's her name? Abby Kincaid. She comes back to Cedar Cove for her brother's wedding. And she's afraid to come back because people blame her for her friend's death. Because she basically crashed the car that killed her friend. And so she has to kind of deal with that. And that is the one thing, like, I'm a grudge holder, but I do think that this family needs to forgive her for that. Because it was a patch of ice that killed this poor girl, not her bad driving. But, yeah, as far as Joshua's stepdad, he can... Yeah. I'll just stop talking. And then I read Lost and Found in Cedar Cove. It was, like, the novella that's a sequel to this book. 2 stars as well. Jo Marie's dog goes missing. And apparently he's off playing matchmaker to some high school kids. Don't ask me. But, yeah. And then we have Grumpy Mark Taylor saving the day, which makes it clear he's probably going to be the next love interest. So, yeah. All in all, that's all I read. Sorry for the screaming rant at the end. But that book just made me so mad. So, yeah. I don't know if any of you guys who have read Debbie Maycomer has read this book, but Liz from Lizzie Faye Loves Books and Storm from Storm Reads, have fun listening to my yelling rant about the Rose Harbor books. And on that note, I will end. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!
Speech on. Near right edge. Stop recording.